bank kuljetës. Shkarko aplikacionin e bankës ProCredit dhe paguaj profi nëpërmjet telefonit mobil Android. ProCredit Bank, shumë profi.
Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our next topic and our next presentation. This time we'll dive a bit deeper into the role of data and technology with our next speaker, Mr. Andi Bejleri, the lead architect at IBM. Mr. Bejleri will be exploring how technology is key to survival for businesses, and I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a very interesting presentation to you all. Just a quick reminder before I pass the floor to Mr. Bejleri, if you have any questions, please use our chat and send us your question. We'll address them at the end of the presentation. Thank you so much, and Mr. Bejleri, the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Dominic. I want to start this presentation by citing one of the most influential economists of the 20th century, Joseph Schumpeter. In his work on capitalism, socialism, and democracy, he redefined the concept of creative destruction, which was previously introduced by Karl Marx. What he meant by schöpferische Zerstörung is the process of industrial mutation that continuously revolutionizes the economic structure from within, incessantly destroying the old one and incessantly creating a new one. I particularly like this redefinition of creative destruction because it's well defined, the link between industry, economic structure, and the continuous process of reinvention. He believed that the survival of a business in a continuous changing world stands in reinventing its model by using the industry. The book was published in the 40s, in the time where the world was on the verge of a world war and where industry was quite established in the economics of a country. So not much different times for what we are living now. His theory has proven to stand. We can start to look in the past, not that far from what we're living now, in the mid-1990s. Companies that adapted to new technologies survived and took the pole position for the next business cycle. I can mention here, for example, Google over Yahoo and Yahoo over Alta Vista in the world of search engines. Or in the world of digital photography revolution, I can mention you Canon and Nikon taking over Polaroid. Or even in the music industry, we can look at iTunes over Napster and Napster over Tower Records. So this is just to give you a few examples. So it is in my strong beliefs and my young experience that the key to survival for businesses is technology. So while bearing in mind Schumpeter's theory, let us look at key challenges that businesses has faced in a pre-pandemic era and what they are facing in a pandemic era, so what we're living now. Before the pandemic, competition in an economy of global market was about investment projects, return on assets, profit margin, and market capitalization. In the pandemic, we are experiencing fatigue markets, unfortunately, due to the lockdown. Competition in this area is about moving fast talent and capital to not lose profitability and faster and bolder decisions. Before the pandemic, competition based on merger and acquisition was about eliminating the competition at all. It was about market power and presence in the relevant markets. During the pandemic, business needs to be resilient, ensure liquidity by shoring up the business, mitigating the risk, and filling the gaps in the value chain. Before the pandemic, businesses were investing in products, processes, and business model innovations, while during the pandemic, innovation is represented, and this is to my opinion, by measures that can be adapted on an ad hoc basis, and this is due to the crisis breaking out in a very short time. So if we see here, the challenges look like a dichotomy here. So they look like not contradicting themselves. They are like different facets of the same coin. And they do not overlap. and they do not exclude each other. So going back to Schumpeter's theory in an action of reflection to seek for a way to deal with so many changes. So I have the question of what Schumpeter's theory tells us and what has the past taught us as well. So we are living in the Industry 4.0 revolution, and businesses are adopting fast to it. They are digitalizing their products, working processes, making use of enterprise resource management, customer relationship management, enterprise contact management. And this is quite clear now because no business has a monopoly on good managers as it was before. So businesses have to really go into the automated processes to succeed in a world of global markets. On the other side, businesses are infusing analytics for readiness and agility. Analytics capabilities help scanning proactively for disruptors and opportunities, make real-time decisions, balance short and long-term actions in an ongoing uncertain environment. They are bringing as well process innovations into business. Businesses are using analytics to platforms to accelerate these operations. And they are using cloud-based accelerators for system integration and transformation as well. And most of the businesses that I know have already established a digital lab or a garage. So bear in mind that we are living in the times that the winner takes it all. So businesses should carefully examine where do they stand in the technology evolution. Companies that have already adopted and observed the advancements of Industry 4.0 are already planning for the next evolution, which is Industry 5.0. What Schumpeter told us is to be prepared for the next technological advancements in order to survive. And to that note, I thank you all for the attention, and I'm handing over back to Dominique for an open session here of questions and discussions. Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Mr. Bejleri, for your insights and the information that you shared with us. We really appreciate it. Listening to your presentation, I personally have a few questions for you. Let's start with, in your intro, you talked about the industrial mutation and creative destruction. In that line of thought, what would you think that are some of the first signs that something like this is currently going on in a certain industry, and could we, in a way, predict what would happen next based on these signs?
Okay, that's a difficult question. So you need, okay, first of all, you need to ask the experts in each industry for the specific signs. So I cannot say I'm a banker. I cannot say I'm in the automotive industry. So I cannot be that expert here. But overall, I think coming from the different industry, overall, all share a common viewpoint here. So I will get to the viewpoint here. Is that I think at the basis of having these insights of science that you call them, so these insights, I would say. At the core, at the standing core, it's smart observations on human nature and on the resources that surround us. So, since I'm come from the industry of IT, so let me be a bit more specific here. In IT, the signs are quite clear. I mean, companies in IT here want to have less manual work, so that's why automation is full, and that's number one. We want to make better decision making, so that's why artificial intelligence is thriving and blooming, and of course we want to reduce the costs. So all the operations now are moved from these standard data centers or local servers into cloud solutions, and so on, and I can continue this. But there is an expression here that the best way to predict the future is to invent it. I think most of you have heard about it. I don't think this is always true. I don't think that the best way to predict the future is to invent it, but I think the best way, in some cases, because I don't want to take here the absolute truth, is that we need to observe and understand more the nature of the things and what resources do we have. And I hope that clarified your question as well.
Very much so, and I think that I personally agree with your line of thought, and yeah, we should look at the science and not just try to invent the future, but base something, at least base it on something. You also, during your presentation, you kind of touched upon a little bit about the focus of businesses before and after the pandemic. You mentioned innovation during the pandemic is being represented by adopting new measures on an ad hoc basis. So do you think that in the long term, this shift into the new mentality, this would be the new mentality? Or do you expect that things will stabilize and kind of go back to normal thinking and strategizing pre-pandemic?
Yes, I mean, to answer to your question, we just need to look to the past, and it was in my intention here to bring the terminology survival, though in the current times that we're living, I didn't want to emphasize it so much because it can cause some sensitivity to different kind of peoples, huh? So we know in what kind of times we're living. So, but I hope the survival topic here, it's quite important in terms of the businesses. So I hope that businesses that suffered from the lack of structured R&D, so I've seen and I have witnessed that businesses that had a very well structured R&D, they survived and they didn't suffer at all. But businesses that didn't have an innovation, structured innovation, then I saw, or I read in the news as well, I heard from discussions that they suffered and they went for these ad hoc solutions because they had to survive. I believe that they need to formalize this. And it's in the nature of the survivors. So if we have businesses that have managers, that it's in their nature, the survival instinct, it's an instinct at the end of the day, as doing business is an instinct. If they understand the power of innovation, because innovation is a necessity at the end of the day. Neither it's a luxury nor it's a commodity. So if they have this instinct, then they will survive and thrive after the pandemic and throughout the course of the business.
Lovely, thank you so much. And you touched upon the notion that innovation is a necessity. I completely agree with you with that. And pretty much the similar cases we've seen here as well, companies who've kind of thought about the R&D and started developing new products and started thinking about innovating their business models and stuff like that, have passed and have fared better during this pandemic than others. So yeah, that's a very, very interesting point you touched upon. Finally, let's go into just one more question from my side. You touched upon the point that businesses are relying more than ever on analytics and data for decision-making purposes. In layman's terms, for people who don't really understand, who don't have a background in technology, how does data and analytics help a business with decision-making, and how does it impact an industry as a whole, if we can say so like that?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, let me be a bit more specific here. So you know that I come from the banking sector, banking industry. That's where I've focused in the past 2 years. I can mention the example on macroprudential analysis, which are analyses that looks at the health of a financial institution or even financial system and overall. And we perform there, bankers, let's say, perform stress tests there and scenario analysis to determine the system's sensitivity to economic shocks. And this kind of tests, for example, are quite important in overall in a bank or not only for a second level bank, but even for central banks. They're quite important. But they became even more important in these areas of during the pandemic. But certainly you cannot run these analyses on a small set of data because you don't get any meaningful insight there. And you need all kinds of relevant data that are already cleaned, validated, and ready for running the various algorithms here. And of course, you cannot run these algorithms on your laptops, right? Because you want to have a meaningful answer, right, in a reasonable amount of time, because that's the key point here. I mean, previously they were running maybe some tests, stress tests, and they were getting the results, I don't know, after 48 hours. 48 hours is too much in such a dynamic world. You cannot foresee, you cannot predict, you cannot then take measures to prevent something to happen. So I think both combining data, large data, big data, how do you want to call it, analytics on well-established platforms, I think it's a key here for survival and for a fast decision making, fast and smart and insightful and data-driven decision making, I would say.
Lovely. Thank you so much for your answers and for your insight. If you have nothing else to add, I would conclude this discussion by thanking you so much for finding your time and joining us at this edition of KosICT. Sorry for the technical problems that we had in the beginning, but this is the first time we're organizing a virtual event and couldn't predict a few different things. But thank you so much for your presence and for sharing your thoughts with us.
It was a pleasure, Dominic. I can fully understand the technical issues that you have faced, and my compliments and congratulations to what you are driving here. I think this is very, very important. I personally very much appreciate it, and I wish to you best of luck, and to all the audience as well the same.
Thank you so much.
And keep safe and take care of yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Have
you
a
as
very
well.
great day,
Have a
sir.
great day as well. Bye. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Mr. Bejleri. Bye. So we'll continue in a few minutes with our next session. Please stay tuned and we'll be moving on. Thank you so much.